Hello. Time for another video. So today I got back a letter from the HRT interview that I had a week or two ago. The camera's a little wonky. Um, and yeah, just wanted to share that letter. I've still adjusting my camera. I've read it once before, but just wanted to, well, share it here. So, all right, I was getting this figured out before I started recording, but should be able to go. Ta-da! Okay. All right. I think that you can see um, what I have going on here. So I'll just sort of read this and I'll sort of give my reactions and yeah. So referral and so I guess dated December 12th, 2022. Client Geraldine Frasco. Date of birth October 3rd, 1992. Referral and background Mrs. Frasco. So, yeah, that's still new to me. I guess I'm Mrs. Frasco now. Um, which is just, it's funny. It's cute. Um, Mrs. Frasco was referred for mental health services at Ally Center in Coralville, Iowa. Mrs. Frasco was referred by a previous provider to receive support for issues including gender dysphoria, anxiety, and issues related to LGBTQ identity. So that's something that I'm not sure if I've mentioned that before, but my current therapist is actually the second therapist that I've been seeing. Um, yeah, I don't want to get too into weeds with it right now, but I had seen a previous therapist whenever I first started having these, thoughts, and they actually initially told me that, it was a more generalized therapist, and they actually told me that no, I was probably not transgender, and that didn't really sit right with me, but I continued seeing her for a little while, um, until eventually, I actually changed her mind. She said, "Hey, you might actually be transgender." I'll talk more about this another time, but yeah. So anyway, then she referred me to James, is the therapist that I'm seeing now. Um, but so yeah, uh, issues related to LGBTQ identity. Mrs. Frasco has been seen regularly for individual therapy since October 29th, 2021. Mrs. Frasco is a transgender woman who uses she, her, hers pronouns. She reported that she had been. It still makes me giggle when I read female pronouns. She reported that she has been out as transgender for a year and 9 months at the time of this assessment. She reported feeling ready and excited to take the next step in her transition, which is true. So, yeah, I don't know. Um, HRT is a step that I feel like I'm not as nervous about it as I should be. I don't know. I'm just really excited for it. Um, I'm really excited for it. So, uh, yeah, I don't know. This sounds weird, but probably the thing that I'm most excited about is facial changes, which is a weird thing to be excited about, but I don't know, just have a generally more feminine appearance. Um, I mean, I could say boobs or whatever, but no, not. It's more just general feminine appearance that makes me excited, I guess. Um, Gender identity and history of gender dysphoria. Mrs. Frasco has reported a long history of gender dysphoria beginning in childhood. So yeah, dysphoria, it's not something, not a word that I've used, but no, I guess it is, dysphoria, truly. Um, because I always hear the word dysphoria and I think it's some big thing, but it's no, it's just a word for not being comfortable in your gender. That's all it is. And yeah, reported a long history of gender dysphoria beginning in childhood. She reported that beginning in childhood, she can remember always thinking that be a girl would be better and more desirable for her. Um, and I thought that more generally that'd be desirable for everybody. Everybody would rather be a girl, or so I thought. Um, she reported enjoying stories about physical transformation during childhood and desired that ability for herself. Uh, Mrs. Frasco reported that when she was a child, she believed that wanting to be a girl must be common. Okay, yep. And only when she got older did she realize that most children who are assigned male at birth do not hold this desire. Mrs. Frasco reported that during pre-adolescent age, she found herself fascinated by gender nonconforming experiences that she was exposed to through the media. Um, Talked about this stuff, in a previous video, but um, Ba, 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 ba. She reported desiring breasts during this stage of life, but she reported not vocalizing this desire for fear of judgment. Yup. Mrs. Frasco reported dreading male puberty during adolescence, noting that desire to be a woman remained at this age, but the concept seemed impossible to her. So James wrote this letter. He has a way to, make it sound good, better than, anything that I would have said, but yeah. It seemed impossible to her. She reported having several LGBTQ friends during her teenage years who she identified with. Mrs. Frasco, God, Mrs. Frasco, that's still so weird. Mrs. Frasco reported that while in college, she became consumed with reading gender switching stories of fiction. Yeah. She reported using an app to gender switch her face and photos to see herself as a woman during her college years. Mrs. Frasco reported that as an adult, hearing male pronouns or her dead name used to refer to her tends to cause anxiety and distress. What I'll say on this was more after my transgender experience had started. Once it had started, this sort of thing had started to cause me distress, and more particularly, hearing Geraldine or, hearing the female pronouns causes me what I call, euphoria. Um, so is the lack of euphoria dysphoria? Yeah, I guess so. So, yeah, I guess it does cause me dysphoria in a way. Um, Da, da, da. Frasco reported that as an adult, hearing her dead name caused anxiety and distress. Reported that facial hair, a deeper voice, and height are all male-associated features of her body that can cause significant distress when she fixates on them. Yep. Mrs. Frasco reported that using female pronouns, a new name, and getting laser hair removal have all helped alleviate feelings of gender dysphoria and anxiety. Yep. Mrs. Frasco reported coming out to her wife, close friends, parents, and sister all within the last year and a half. She reported that coming out, using new pronouns and name, and presenting more femininely have all been positive steps in her transition that helps to decrease feelings of gender dysphoria. Mrs. Frasco reported that she is hopeful that receiving gender affirming hormone replacement therapy will help her to feel more comfortable in her body, alleviate gender dysphoria, and further support managing anxious symptoms. And yeah, I don't have much to add. I mean, that's all true. And I don't know. I'm really excited. I really I don't know. I really am. Next bit is sort of yeah. sort of filling in some of the blanks a little bit. Meaningful and supportive relationships for gender identity and transition. Mrs. Frasco. See, God, I like Mrs. Frasco though. Mrs. Frasco reports many meaningful and close relationships with family and friends. She reported that she is out to her wife, who she lives with, and for whom she receives lots of support in her identity and transition. Mrs. Frasco reported having several close friends who she connects with on a regular basis. Excuse me. She reported that her close friends are supportive of her identity and transition. Mrs. Frasco reported that she is close with her parents and sister, all of whom are supportive with of her identity and transition as well. And just quick shout out to basically, if you're listening to this, you are a close friend and part of my close support network. And it's been amazing. It's been a great ride. And I don't know. I keep expecting the negatives to happen, and they keep not happening. And everybody that I've come out to, it's been amazing. It's been awesome. And yeah, I don't know. It's been awesome. Um, Support in work environment. Mrs. Frasco is employed full time as an engineer. She reported feeling very supported. I have, and that was crazy to me too. She reported feeling very supported in the work environment regarding her gender identity and transition. Mrs. Frasco reported that the Human Resources Department of her workplace has policies and protections that help to encourage her to come out at work. That's that gender yeah, so I've talked a lot, not in my videos here, but talked a bit about my work has a gender transition policy. Like it's actually like written down as a policy, and it's amazing. And that's something maybe I'll go through in a future video, but yeah. Um, but yeah, it did help me encourage me to come out at work because I knew that basically work was gonna have my back. And whoa, and yeah, I don't know, it's exciting stuff. Ba 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 ba. So let's see, where was I? Human resources policy. She reported that after coming out at work, her new name and correct pronouns were immediately put into use. Mrs. Frasco reported that she has been able to utilize the women's restroom and locker rooms without issue. that's that's still crazy to me too. But it's awesome. It's awesome. Um, she reported that her manager and coworkers have been supportive of her identity after coming out at work. Mrs. Frasco reported she has befriended another trans woman at her workplace who is also supportive and shares her professional experience. So yeah, that's something I'm not sure if I've talked about before, but her name's Keaton Brown, and sort of similar age to myself. Actually, by coincidence, started working at Bear on the same exact day that I did, and started working when I first met Keaton. They were working. They were presenting male, and now they're presenting female, and that's really exciting. And Keaton is with me on the leadership team of our blend group, our LGBT group. Um, and yeah, I was able to talk to her a little bit before coming out at work. And yeah, and it was another thing that was really encouraging and helped encourage me to come out at work. So, mental health history. Mrs. Frasco reported a history of generalized anxiety disorder. Yeah. So that helped a lot. I don't know, especially early on in transition where I was just so fearful of everything and every little step. Being treated for anxiety helped a lot. Um, and then taking positive steps in my gender transition has helped a lot. So I'm a lot better off now, I suppose. She reported her struggle with anxious symptoms are often related to the historical and contemporary struggles with gender dysphoria and minority stress. Um, yeah, minority stress. I'm not sure what it means by minority stress. I guess stress with being a minority. I don't, because I am a minority now, which is sort of crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's what minority stress means, but Mrs. Frasco reported feeling supported and stable with this condition due to adherence to talk therapy and psychiatric medication. She reported taking medication to help manage symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder. Mrs. Frasco denied any history of suicidal thoughts, suicidal attempts, psychiatric hospitalizations, or self harm behaviors. Um, yeah, not much to add to there. Substance use history, occasional use of alcohol, no history. Trauma and abuse, no history of trauma, abuse, or violence. Coping strategies. Mrs. Frasco reported many coping strategies that will help her continue to navigate her transition successfully. She reported playing video games with close supportive friends regularly to reduce anxiety and manage stress. Mrs. Frasco reported utilizing cognitive coping skills learned in therapy when instances of anxiety come up in her day to day life. She reported several hobbies such as board games and hanging out with friends that help that will help manage any stress or fluctuation in mood she may experience. And I don't know, every step of my path, it's been going down consistently, down, down, and it's to the point where when I'm coming to HRT, my most stressful steps were my most early ones. Um, coming out to Erica, big stressor. Coming out to, my close friends, big stressor. Laser hair removal, huge stressor. Um, by the time now I'm getting to HRT, I am so self-confident, and I wasn't always self-confident every step of the journey, but now I am, and now all I feel is just excitement, really, and it's awesome. It's awesome. Understanding risks and benefits. Mrs. Frasco reports understanding the risks and benefits of receiving gender affirming hormone replacement therapy. World Professional Association for Transgender Health Standards. Mrs. Frasco has persistent and well documented gender dysphoria. Mrs. Frasco is over the age of 18 and is capable of making informed decisions for herself. um, Mrs. Frasco's other significant mental health conditions are well controlled. For these reasons, Mrs. Frasco has met WPATH standards for receiving gender affirming hormone replacement therapy. Recommendation: Mrs. Frasco's symptoms of gender dysphoria are consistent with persistent and chronic gender dysphoria. All other comorbid mental health conditions are well controlled through a combination of psychiatric medication and weekly talk therapy. Mrs. Frasco indicates she is prepared to begin hormone replacement therapy and understands all practical aspects of the process. For these reasons, I believe that receiving hormone replacement therapy will help Mrs. Frasco to make significant progress in treating gender dysphoria. I recommend that Mrs. Frasco receive gender affirming hormone replacement therapy. Therapist James Gomez, Tia la 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 la, supervisor Lori Holman, blah 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 blah. And there it is. And there it is. Let's see, I can cut back. Um, yeah, and it's really exciting. I'm really excited. So, coming up, uh, next Wednesday. So let's see, that's January 11th. January 11th, I have my doctor's appointment for HRT. I'm not going to be able to start HRT at that point. Gotta wait. I'm actually waiting on fertility clinic. I wasn't able to get in there until um, until late February. So probably late February, early March, I'll be able to actually start HRT. And again, just super excited, super excited. And yeah, let's see. Um, Other things coming up in the near future. Um, so a week from now, my work is having a holiday party, and I'm planning on going femininely, which is I'm actually not that nervous. I'm not that nervous. I don't know. I plan on going in a frickin' dress, and I feel like I should be nervous, but I'm not. I'm just again excited. Um, the people at work, they haven't really I don't know. They haven't been there on my journey with me, necessarily, and they haven't really seen me in fem mode. So, good opportunity for that. Um, Other than that, tomorrow I'm planning on getting my eyebrows done. So let's see, I'll sort of do a close up here. So I don't know. I've got big bushy man eyebrows. Um, I don't know what they could do. I guess thin them, like make them vertically thinner, I think is what I'm wanting. Yeah. Um, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit nervous about that, just 'cause I hope it goes well. Um, Part of me is, yeah, yeah. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine. Um, which I know are great words of comfort, but I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. That's exciting too. If it goes well, then I'm super excited about it. Yeah. Well, I think that is all I had currently. Um, yeah. Well, I think that'll be it for this video. Um, so thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.